Hi, Sandra here. Welcome back to my channel. I finally finished reading Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff, the sequel to Empire of the Vampire, which came out like 3 years ago-ish. And I feel like I need to read a rom-com after all of that. I'll keep this mostly spoiler-free. I'll give you a heads up whenever I do get into spoilers, and I'll also be sure to mark that in the chapter selections so that you can skip over those parts if you want to. So let's talk through it. Like Empire of the Vampire, Gabriel de León is imprisoned by Margot Chastain, and he's being interviewed by Jean-Francois to get his side of the story with what happened around the Grail, Dior. This isn't really a spoiler because it's revealed very early on in the book. The only difference now is that Gabriel's sister, the last Leothi, Celine, is also a prisoner of House Chastain. And then also like the first book, this bounces around quite a bit from present day interview to the events that happened in the past. I thought the twists and turns of Empire of the Vampire were a lot, but Empire of the Damned took it to a whole other level. Jay Kristoff built this huge foundation in the first book, and then he just kept stacking brick after brick of this huge, just twisting tower. It took me a solid week to read this book, which is almost 3 times as long as it took me to read Empire of the Vampire, and I'll get into a little bit about why that is, but I want to stay mostly positive here. Empire of the Damned was just one of those books where there were so many deaths happening all the time, there were so many twists and reveals happening, and everything was running at a 10 the entire, length of the novel. And this is a chunky book that if everything is a 10, then nothing is a 10. So for me, I get reader fatigue, and it's kind of how I felt after reading The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan and House of Flame and Shadow by SJM. There are so much heavy things happening that you can sprinkle in as much levity and snark as you want, but when everything is go, 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 go constantly, it's not one of those books that you can sit down and read in one setting. For me, this is probably something that I would enjoy more reading it more at my leisure, maybe over the span of a couple weeks, just not rushing myself because there is so much happening. If I had to put a tone to Empire of the Damned, it would be nihilistic snark and just doom and gloom is how I would word it. By the end of the book, it left me feeling bleak, a bit numb. I was shocked by a lot of the things that happened at the end because it was just like bam, 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 bam. Jay Kristoff was hitting you with every single thing. Like once you thought that you were given the end of something, he kind of twisted it on its head. There was just a lot. The biggest themes in the story were around family and then love, because throughout these books, Gabriel de León is still struggling with the deaths of Astrid and Patience. He's not really opening himself up to those feelings toward other people. He's still haunted by the spirit of especially his wife, and he's just having a hard time letting go of that and can't move past that. There's a character that is brought back from the first book who ends up being alive because this character is not human, and this love develops between Gabriel and this character. I was all for it. I loved it. I thought it was healthy as healthy could be because this other character also experienced very similar losses in the same way Gabriel did and was very much in this place of grieving as well. They were kind of like a power couple. I was all about it. It was fun. It was exciting to watch. And then there was this parallel of first book you had Gabriel and Astrid and Patience as this little family unit, and then in this book it's Gabriel, this other character, and then Dior, who is pretty much becoming like a daughter figure for him from the first book that becomes this other family unit. So it's kind of interesting to see that juxtaposed. Family gets brought up a lot, not with just vampire families, but also Gabriel's blood family. So his mother, his real father, his stepfather, his sister Celine, his half-sister. And he struggles a lot with just childhood love for his sister. Family is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people in the real world. No one like your family knows how to press your buttons and trigger you and embarrass you and just bring out that anger and fury in you, or at least in my family it is. I have to have special boundaries with how I interact with different people in my family so that I am not being my worst self, if that makes sense. Gabriel struggles a lot with that with his sister Celine. If I want to talk about the characters that I was most fascinated by in Empire of the Damned, it would be a character that I cannot name because it's a spoiler, that's brought back. So that was definitely one of my favorite characters, and just the growth and the character arc that they took there. Thank you to Jay Kristoff for writing in this character because it added some happy, or at least some fun moments in this book that was just filled with horrible, horrible things happening. And then I just really loved Dior's growth. Both of these two characters, they sacrificed so much. Both characters, especially Dior, had to face very terrible things. I thought that was really powerful for a young woman character in this series. I mean, against all of the odds in this book, which the odds are very, very much against our crew of, I don't want to call them heroes because none of them really feel like heroes, and I don't think anyone wants to be a hero. They just kind of make a decision as best they can considering their character flaws, and their flaws are vast. And then another character I really enjoyed was seeing more of Celine. Celine is a character that I do not trust with any ounce of my being. There are just so many secrets, so many things that just kind of rub you as a bad or evil type of decision, and I can't figure out what Celine's endgame is, and that bothers me. It's kind of like Jean-Francois, right? Jean-Francois is very charming, he's funny, his banter with Gabriel is everything and very entertaining, but I also don't trust him because, like Celine, I don't know what his endgame is. A character in the book made a comment that Jean-Francois refers to Margot as mother, and so he's like this little child, and he was turned vampire in a very safe, motherly kind of fashion instead of being brutally taken violently and turned into a vampire, and you definitely see that with him. And so he's just kind of like a snake, and I don't know, but Celine is very much a snake too. A badass snake with, every depiction of her with her throat ripped out, her, her skeletal structure showing through the ripped flesh of her face and the mask and all of that. So cool. And just her powers are incredible and very frightening in this world, but it's just like, I don't really know, especially after reading the last page, I don't know what her end game is, what her goal is. Things that I'm looking forward to in the last book, of course, are going to be, how is this resolution of ending Day's death going to play out, if it plays out? I'm not well enough acquainted with all of Jay Kristoff's work to know if he's like a positive end, I don't want to say happy ending, like a positive ending to series kind of author or what, but a part of me is like, ooh, how is this going to be subverted and not play out how we all hope and expect it to? Because he just likes crushing our little puny dreams until it's just like little ash flying around on the wind. I will give Jay credit for all of the snarky banter between Jean-Francois and Gabriel, and just literally anyone that interacted with Gabriel. I guess he's just the kind of personality where it's very easy to get into little spats with him. Some of the back and forth is just so funny. I think it was even better than the first book. So there's just a lot of dialogue in this that Jay Kristoff is so good at. And so I'll say positives for Empire of the Damned: stylish, poetic writing, compelling story and plot, fascinating characters, and then the action scenes are bloody and brilliant. They are very cinematic in my head with how they're written on page. Like, you have no problem visualizing how all of this shit is going down, and there is so much shit, and some of the ways that people are killed, it's just so bloody and violent and graphic and gory. Damn, Jay, you really went there. But it's like, you can't turn away. It's just so, it just sucks you in, and you feel like you are seeing all of this stuff play out, and it's kind of heartbreaking. I tried to make a list of all of the twists and reveals that happened, and it was one of those things where I thought the first book had a lot of twists, but like I said, this book took it to another level where you just feel like you're spinning in twists and reveals. There's so many of them. I won't go into detail, but like, I have a running list of like 13 things here. Everything from a previous character being alive to another character being turned to how the Divok vampires are being supercharged in a way. Dior's role in all of this, especially the end. The ending of this book, it leaves you like chomping at the bit to get the third book, because you're like, oh, okay, so there is someone in the guard kind of working on the inside, and you're like, okay. In my mind, I'm like, how in the world did Gabriel and Celine get captured by Margot Chastain? That's a story that I would like to see happen in the third book. It's just how they came to be in this place, and then how they break out and how all of this shit is resolved, because there's so much stuff to resolve. The only critical feedback that I had for this book, when literally everyone is dying brutally, and when all of these twists and reveals are happening, it's like you just kind of expect people to die and for things to not be as they appear when you're just suspicious of everything. I wasn't getting super connected and attached to any one character because I knew that something terrible was going to happen. Like, if you haven't learned that about Jay Kristoff's books yet, with like Nevernight and Empire of the Vampire, this book takes it up exponentially because of all these terrible epic things happening and losses and just like everything's running out of 10 the whole time. I felt fatigued, just numb after reading it. So I still want to read the third book. I know that this is going to be a trilogy and I need to see how this wraps up, but my god, there was so much. I kind of feel like I'm in the minority here because I see so many other people just praising the shit out of this book and just thinking it's his best book ever, which is definitely up there, but I still think I preferred the storytelling flow or pace of the first book compared to this one. Even though this one had so much plot stuff happening and reveals, there's just something about the first book that read more seamlessly to me. So I don't know. Did anyone else experience something similar to me, or am I just like alone on an island here by myself? I'm going to talk about some spoilery stuff now, so if you don't want to hear this or be spoiled, just skip over to the end. It's in the chapters. So the character that got brought back is Phoebe. I was shocked and also so excited. If you played like Baldur's Gate, she reminds me of like a druid character. I also was heartbroken when Aaron, who I really, really loved from the first book, was turned into a vampire. And not only was he turned into a vampire, because he was a Silversaint, every day that he woke from the vampire sleep, it was like he was being tortured because of the silver tattooed into his body. He was like burning and screaming all the time, and it didn't matter if they flayed his flesh off to remove the silver from his body, because each time that he reawakens the next day, he would be reset to the state that he was in whenever he was turned. And so that was just an awful, awful fate for him. And this is why Jay Kristoff is such a good grimdark author, because there are literally no happy moments for anyone. Like, everyone is just going to be put through the ringer and tested, and I just feel bad for the characters at this point. And Aaron was one of them that I was just like, oh god. And like his love, Baptiste, I was like, oh no. Because of the stuff that happens with Aaron and Nikita, I felt horrible for Baptiste, and just like all of the tension and conflict that was there. All of these things that are right in front of your face. Lilith, the Heartless, being literally heartless. Like, why did I not put that together? And then Jay Kristoff kept making it a point, like driving it home, that vampires are reset to the state that they died in and turned vampire. I'm like, oh, of course, you know, if she gets stabbed in the heart, she's not going to actually be dead. And then she just snaps Dior's neck. I was just like, okay, didn't see that coming. Really didn't see it coming at the end when Celine's just standing there watching, you know, Dior turn vampire and open her eyes while being in this dead pose, while holding like this baby toddler vampire, Mother Marin. I was just like, what is going on? It's going to be interesting to see how Jay Kristoff ties this all together, because I'm at a loss of words. I stopped guessing what's going to happen with this series a long time ago, so we'll see. Also, another thing that I wanted to comment on was Jay Kristoff. I feel like even in Nevernight, there was some like romantic, not really smutty scenes, but there was like definitely some more sexual subject matter kind of scenes. There's definitely a pattern with Jay Kristoff having more and more of that, and you can see how his skill in that area is growing, because there was more blood smut, if that's what you want to call it, because of the vampires and just kind of the graphic nature of it in this book, but there was way more blood smut in this book than even in Empire of the Vampire. And honestly, it didn't bother me at all. Like, this book was very adult, very graphic. Nothing was behind a curtain. It's all just there in all of its ugliness. And I thought everything worked really well for the story and the characters being told. If you're looking for romance, if you're looking for, you know, reluctant, very morally gray heroes, if you're looking for your hopes and dreams being shattered, and all of your expectations being subverted, if you don't mind a little bit of the smuttier romantic scenes, if you enjoy very epic, bloody, gory, action-packed battle scenes, this book is gonna be for you. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. And I'm kind of sad because I'm like, I don't know if I can wait another, 2-3 years for the final book to come out. And the author is on a book tour right now. So I don't know if he's started writing it yet, but it's gonna be so long before we get the wrap up of this story. Let me know if you read this book, what you thought of it, because I really enjoyed it. I just wish I was in a different frame of mind. I feel like if I was able to take my time more about it, I would enjoy it more, because I'm not forcing myself to just like be all of these horrible things happening in my face constantly. I can't deal with that, and I'm numb. So, like I said, let me know what you thought, and I will see you soon. All right, bye.